Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure for us in another episode of the Tennis Talk Coaches Voices to have a great leader, a person who achieved a lot and also did a lot of contribution for our tennis world. Is with us, Dr. Jim Loehr. Hi, Dr. Loehr.
Thank you, Fernando. It's always great to be in a conversation and to have an opportunity to exchange ideas. So thank you, and I hope we can create value for the coaches.
Thank you. Thank you very much to be with us. This is a bridge that we want to develop to create more awareness about what it takes to be a high-performing person, and talking with tennis people that they can know more about what it takes. Let me introduce just a little bit about Dr. Loehr. He's a world-recognized sports psychologist. He has a master and doctorate in psychology. He has been working with many top players, not only in tennis, and many sport athletes, top ones, but in tennis, he did a lot of work with different players like Gabriela Sabatini, Monica Seles, Arantxa Sánchez Vicario, Jim Courier, Pete Sampras, and so on and more players. He is also a great author. He's a New York best-selling author with multiple books, and also he was a co-founder of multiple different successful projects. Right now, also, he is doing a great contribution in one app, Epic app, which is a very good app that you can download to follow the training and mental session that you can do. Thank you to be with us, Jim. And again, I'm going to do our first question.
Thank you for having me, Fernando. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, let me ask you, because people, of course, they know a lot about your professional journey. But let me ask you, who is, from your point of view, Jim Loehr?
It's an interesting question. I would say Jim Loehr was very fortunate to be born with great energy and a passion for life. I don't know where it came from, but it was there very early, and I was always chasing something. I've always been driven to kind of push the envelope and break new ground in whatever I was doing. I always wanted to kind of see how far we could push something. I love to explore new ideas. That's kind of who I am. I just love ideas and concepts. I love new paradigms, new ways of thinking at things that maybe don't conform to tradition as much as you might like. I guess the biggest question I keep asking in life is why? Why do we do it that way? Why are we thinking of it in those terms? Why is this the best way? So I guess I'm a forever learner. I like to ask questions, and I love new things. I just love to, I fell in love with the application of psychology to human performance. And I'm as excited about that now as I was when I first got started. And I will probably be a seeker until my last breath.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are a magnificent leader. How was that transformation, let's say, from your young age, becoming a sports psychologist, and then a sports psychologist, and then how was that transformation?
Well, I love science, and my father was a very brilliant civil and petroleum engineer, and I wasn't really excited about going into math. He was a math and science guy, but I really found I had a collegiate professor of psychology that got me excited about psychology. So I went on and got my master's in doctorate, and I specialized in community mental health. Did my internship in mental health. Then I became licensed in the state of Colorado, did my 2-year supervised practice, and then I was offered a very big job, very young, as chief psychologist and executive director of a very large community mental health center that served the rest of my life. But in the catchment area was a college called Adams State College, and I met a man who changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a brilliant exercise physiologist, Dr. Joe Vigil,
mm-hmm.
who was a renowned track and field coach who got me excited about the application of psychology to sport. I started working with his runners, and he was always asking me, what can you tell me as a psychologist that'll help me get more out of my runners, my athletes, my track and field athletes? And I said, Joe, I don't have any idea. I know how to take people who, are not very well and to help them to get healthier, but
mm-hmm.
I don't know how to take normal people and make them extraordinary. And he said, well, if that's the case, you need to look into this. It's going to be a huge field. This was back in the 70s. So I started looking into it, and eventually I resigned to a 23-member board of directors, and they gave me a huge increase in salary, thinking it was a ploy for more money. And I said, no, I want to go into sports psychology. And they thought I duly lost my mind because there was no such thing at that time. And then I moved to Denver and set up the Center for Athletic Excellence,
mm-hmm.
and realized I didn't know anything. I really didn't know. There wasn't much literature. So I said, I need to go study, but there was no program. So I saw that Jimmy Connors was setting up a new tennis center in Sanibel, the United States Jimmy Connors Tennis Center, and they were looking for someone to run that facility. And Bob Davis was the guy. And I said, listen, I will come run your whole operation, but I want to have access to Jimmy's brain. I want to really understand how Jimmy Connors, he was the best at that time.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 years there. Then I went on and spent 6 years at the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy, where I was director of sports psychology and sports
mm-hmm.
science.
Mm-hmm.
Made all kinds of changes there. And that was my learning opportunity. We had 240 kids. We had some of the best players in the world, Andre Agassi, Monica Seles, David Wheaton. I mean, it went on and on. It was a great, great opportunity. And I was studying them, collected data on every one of those players every day. And then decided to go into business. And in 1992, we established what eventually became the Human Performance Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And we used all of that learning to help us build, an understanding of human performance that had never been done before. We patterned it after the United States Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. Everyone said it wouldn't be possible. This is a for-profit venture. And, but we ended up probably today, some 400,000 people have gone through the Institute, and we had 17 number ones in the world. We had a tennis center where Jim Courier trained there when he was number one. Pete Sampras trained there when he was number one, and all kinds of players came in and off the tour to train there. And we had everything from sumo wrestlers from Japan who spent 6 months to chess champions, surgeons, FBI anti-terrorist units, hostage rescue teams from the FBI. It was a living laboratory of high performance. And that was, for me, I was intoxicated by all the opportunities that I had to learn. And then we sold the company to Johnson & Johnson, and I stayed on for another 6 years to try to help with the transition. And now I'm applying all that we learned to children, called the Youth Performance Institute. But it was I was eager to learn. I think that's the most important thing, is never be satisfied with where you are. There's always so much more to learn. And the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And related with that, Jim, and that journey, an evolution journey that you did and you keep doing, how many difficulties or what kind of difficulties you have to overcome, to develop yourself in the way that you did, no?
So that journey was every single day we had a new obstacle in our path. I mean, we didn't go into that with money. We had to figure out how to raise money, get investor money, satisfy banks. We purchased a 9-acre site in Lake Nona.
Mm-hmm.
And, we just didn't have money. We just decided that we were going to try to do it without a lot of, means that we just didn't have. And so every day there were more challenges. Another obstacle would be put in our way. But we just said we're going to be resilient. We're going to be persistent. We are not going to give up. We could have given up 100 times. And as I said, most people said this would not work. But we were stubborn. We had this stubborn conviction that we could find a way and we would make a way to make this happen. And our belief, we recruited the spirit of everyone. We recruited people who really wanted to make a difference. And we tried to keep people out. We had a few people, but people who wanted to be famous because they wanted to leverage the fame of all those people who were there,
mm-hmm.
and to become famous because of their association with HPI. Those people, we tried to eliminate those as much as possible. We got rid of a lot of them, but people just love being famous. And it always used to drive me crazy. Almost all the people were not driven by money or power or fame. They were driven by an opportunity to make a difference, a positive difference in the lives of all the folks that came there, all the corporate athletes, all the superstars. And so we were, I was always trying to recruit people who really saw something beyond themselves. And that was a big part of our recruitment.
Yeah, and you did a lot about it. Let me ask you, because you are a great leader. You did work, and you work with a lot of top people from different industries, business, sports.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, which is in particular in common, the top leaders, how they behave, how they think, which are they have in common?
It's a very good question, Fernando. I think there's a tremendous similarity between the great champions in anything and the mindset that it takes to become a great champion in tennis or any sport. I think, as I said earlier, I think you just have to have this drive to excel. You have to have the drive that every day is another opportunity to get better. You can never be satisfied with where you are. And you're dissatisfied not because you're not famous or you don't have enough money. You're not satisfied because you could do more for others. You've got to push the envelope, not so much to get more visible in the world, but because you really feel like I could contribute more. I could be a better performance psychologist. I could be a better exercise physiologist. I could be a better massage therapist. I could become a better receptionist. I could become a better speaker, a better champion in sport. You just never give up. You don't know how much talent you have, but you just assume you've not reached your limits. And you have to have passion around this. You have to have passion for what you're doing. You have to love what you're doing and really make that kind of the dominant force. So at times it's really hard, but down deep inside, it's what you kind of feel like you've had a calling to do. And you really get to the point where you realize you control the things you can control, mm-hmm. and you let everything else go. You try to work on the things that you can make a difference in. You try to stay in the present. You perform the very best when you're in front of a client. And you just try to be honest and authentic and represent the truth as opposed to making up a lot of stuff just to make the sale. I wanted to make sure that we didn't overpromise we under-promised and over-delivered. And I wanted that to be true with all of our interactions with all of our athletes and all of our, whether they be corporate, military, medicine, or sport athletes. I mean, I wanted to make sure when they came there, they felt we gave them more than they really expected to get.
Yeah, and you observe big champion like Agassi, Seles, or Sampras right now, Nadal, Djokovic, Federer, all those guys. How you decode greatness? How they show that they are, like a top leaders in this kind in tennis, but can be in other industries or another business?
So it's another great question, Fernando. So for me, more important than what you achieve is who you become as a person in the chase to the top. So every day you're changing. Every day you're becoming something different than you were yesterday. And it will be because of the forces and because of the drive and because of what you're trying to achieve. The most important issue for me, the highest priority without question, was the strength of the ethical and moral character, the integrity, the honesty, the trustworthiness, the respect for others, the truthfulness, trustworthiness, even generosity and humility. I give people lots of room. When at the Institute, I gave people lots of room. I hired them because they were extraordinary. I expect them to be the best. And that's what I'm the most proud of, is the faculty and the staff we assembled at the Institute. I don't micromanage people. But if they violate some of these sacred principles, if they move the needle beyond this moral and ethical line, that relationship, their time with us was over. And I was a stickler for that. I wanted everyone to be all in, fully engaged, and do it in a way that didn't really abuse the privileges that we had in being associated with these extraordinary successes in life. And so I've always interested in who you're becoming as a person, more so than who you're becoming as an athlete. And we began to realize that both are very connected. And the healthier you are as a person, the higher you're going to go as a player or as an athlete, and be able to sustain the success and handle the success because you're a solid person in the quest to be at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very good insight. Let me show something for our audience. You wrote this book, which is a magnificent book, and I think everyone has to read this book, because you can learn a lot. And my next question is about that, because you wrote many great recommendations and insights on this book. But you say character is destiny. How you can be in charge to develop your own character, your own destiny.
So another really good question. Character, there are two types of character. One is what I would call performance character. Those are the skills, the competencies, the assets that help you become a great achiever. Things like focus and positivity and discipline and hard work and motivation and drive. Those are all going to help you scale the mountain. And then there's another whole subset that really has to do with your treatment of others on the way to the top. And those are what we call moral and ethical character assets. And these are also acquired. These are not given. You have to work at these. And of the two, the highest priority for me is the moral and ethical. And to be a great champion, you have to have both. But you can get to the top and walk over dead bodies and cheat your way and all kinds of not treat people well. But those in our experience, tend not to last very long, because it's almost like you have a hole in your soul. There's something about your connection to others that's so important for people to have real deep sense of valuing in themselves. So Um, we chisel our own character, carve out our own character every day with every choice we make. Every day we make a decision how to treat someone, whether it's a valet attendant or whether it's a waiter or waitress at a table who made a mistake. It can be something all the way up to your physios, to your coaches, to tournament officials, referees, and on and on and on. And your character is defined by, first, your treatment of others, and then you may become a very high achiever. And if you have both, you become an extraordinary person and champion. So for me, character is something we mold every single day of our life, and we will continue to do so, whether we're aware of it or not, till our last breath.
Which is very important. You can be aware or you cannot, no? Which is another aspect, no?
And we are all a work in progress. We're just trying to raise the bar. And, the moral character, it really takes us into the area of virtue. Virtue is the notion that you're doing good or being good, that you're bringing an extraordinary value to other people's lives that over and above your own. You're doing something on behalf of others that is actually quite noble. And so for me, that is the highest priority.
And probably, Jim, this is something that we need to teach on the schools or probably to develop coaches, because my next question is about the values of coaches related on that. But let me introduce something new, which is probably we need to coach our coaches to be prepared on that. No?
Yeah, I agree. And that's what you're doing with your World Conference, with your podcasts and your training sessions. You're actually coaching coaches, and you're coaching them in many ways in their character development. If you recognize this is such an important, then you're coaching character. For me, the number one issue in coaching is to get the purpose right. And the purpose is that you're not using players to become rich and famous and to build your career. You're more concerned, as I said, about the athlete as a human being than as a competitor. And that what you're trying to do, the purpose of your life is, in a sense, to enable people to do extraordinary things in the world of sport. And if you become famous in that process, that's great, but that's not why you do it. You're doing it to add value to other people's lives, and hopefully something will come back and people will recognize there was value there. Another one is that you deeply care about the physical, the emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being of the people you work with. It's not just ground strokes and fitness and, rankings and so forth. That there is a person in there, and that they have to be valued and recognized for them over and above what they can do in terms of athletic prowess. And I think great coaches also help players understand that they're much more than simply their rankings, their fame, their UTR ranking, or their how much money they've made or whatever in the sport, or even if on the way up the journey, there's a value you have in hard work and discipline. You're actually becoming a better, stronger human being through this exposure to tennis and the exposure to you as a coach. You're helping them grow up. And if they never make it on the tour, if they never make it on a college D1 school scholarship, they will always look back and thank you for this extraordinary gift you gave them to become a better human being. And you've helped them to navigate through tennis, but it really is a metaphor for navigating through life. Tennis is just simply a compressed version of life. And if you learn those skills and focusing and hard work and discipline and respect for others, and you don't cheat your way to the top. You really have a way of, you have a moral code on your path. Those are lessons that are invaluable. And then you recognize that, hey, as a coach, you value effort output, effort more than talent. We tend to gravitate toward talent, the natural ones. But talent doesn't ignite itself. It comes from effort and hard work. And so you value those players who put a lot of hard work in. And if they become surprised at how much talent they have, that's fantastic. But at least they're willing to push the envelope. And sometimes we call those the blue collar workers who actually figured out that the secret to life is energy expenditures. Put your energy out there, be all engaged, be fully in with your energy. And let's see how far you can go. And that lesson, whether you go to the highest or you only get to base camp 5 or base camp 2, you've learned an invaluable lesson in life, and that is the value of effort and hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, what you are saying is coaches have to take care of themselves as well. They have to predict with example, not only being a coach for others, you have to work in yourself in the same way, no?
Yeah, there's a person in there as well, Fernando, as well, that the most important thing you can do to teach players lessons is to be it yourself. You want them to be all in, you've got to be all in. They know when you come and you're not prepared.
Yeah.
They know when you're just leveraging their fame to make you more successful as a coach. It's, anyone who has much awareness, and that's as you started this conversation, you're trying to raise people's awareness. I want players to be aware. If they have a coach who's simply leveraging their successes to make them more famous, I want them to call a halt to that, because that is not the way it should be. You can become famous, but it becomes almost a secondary happening.
Yeah.
That you've really come to understand that, coaches are powerful models for what they want to teach. Fitness, positivity, character, graciousness or gratitude, generosity, hard work. They see you on the court and they realize, boy, no one is more all in than you are. You are as fully engaged as anyone could be. And you are devoted to being the best every single day that you can be. Just like you want your players to be devoted, you should be devoted in the same way. And you want to be viewed as a great mentor, and that you need to have great mentors. You stand on the shoulders of others who are recognized in the field, and you're always giving credit to those who have helped you. But we're all learners, and we're looking for people who can help us be better. And then you also need to be willing to be coached. You're not good enough. Jim Loehr's not good enough yet. I need to be always open to anyone's conversations, criticisms, suggestions. We need to always be looking for ways to improve what we deliver to others.
Yeah, very, very good insight, Dr. Loehr. And let me ask you, because we were talking about predict with example, no? But you did many books, and you expose on that book many good ideas about the importance of the communication, the importance of the word. No, sometimes we don't take too much care about what means the word, which is very important for the brain, for the mind. What do you think about it?
So it's a really important issue, Fernando. The connection we have with others. If you took all the people out of a great player's life, nothing would happen. I don't care how talented they were. They had to have other people around them that enabled this to happen. There was a team. It's always, even though it's an individual sport, it's a team sport. There is a team that makes this happen. And if you don't recognize it wasn't all about your talent, you didn't make this happen by yourself. there was a team of extraordinary people who dedicated their lives to give you your time in the sun. And if you don't recognize that, if you think it was all about you and you treat them just because they're paid staff and that you're the star, coaches need to, to understand, help players to get the mindset right about that. And that everyone on the team needs to feel valued and heard and cared for and appreciated and important because they give so much to the players. And I guarantee you we could have never established and built the Human Performance Institute without extraordinary people joining in the mission who were purpose-driven, not driven for some kind of self-imposed payoff that they really were drawn to. And the other thing that's so interesting in the research on this, that there's a hormone, a neurohormone called oxytocin, that is released when people have a great connection to other people, whether it's a team sport with tennis, college tennis, or high school tennis, or even on a team that includes the physio and the nutritionist and the sports psychologist and the coach and the agent and all of the, all the people who are surrounding them, parents. When there is a great sense of team united together, oxytocin is released in the system. And it binds people together. It was at one time called the love hormone because it was released abundantly at birth and it connects the mother to the child. But it's probably the oldest hormone. Even the dinosaurs, they're finding evidence that connected the mother with the newborn and helped that survival. But it reduces stress. It builds trust. It is a very powerful asset on a team. And that's what enables people to kind of rise up and do things they never could do before. If they have teammates who are kind of antagonistic or critical, or if they have parents in the box that are very critical, the oxytocin dries up very quickly. But if you're in a high stress environment, come together with other people, trust in other people, find ways to connect in a positive way. In a doubles team, when oxytocin is rolling, you're so much better. The nerves are generally not an issue. You usually end up with very lower levels of cortisol and other adrenal cortical hormones. So, and I believe at HPI, our greatest achievement was the faculty, the high performance faculty we put together, and the kind of unification that we had in our mission. We were all bound together in a mission to try to make a difference in the lives of all these people who were going there and coming there. And we didn't realize it at the time because the science wasn't there yet, but the oxytocin, I think, contributed greatly to our ability to take people from where they were to another whole level. So communication and connection to others is so critical. And coaches need to understand that they need to build powerful networks of communication and trust and build a team around the person. It takes a village, as is often said, to build a great player. Great players don't come out of just a coach and a player. There has to be a support system, and coaches need to understand the power of that support team.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, around the professional players, you can find a lot of people around. The main coach is more like a director of one orchestra, no? They have a lot of people around, managers, physios, physical trainer. And also it's very important what you say, no? Because leaders create leaders, no? Which is creating an environment that everyone can reach the best performance development. No.
Right. Exactly. So, when we assembled the team at HPI, we wanted everyone to be a star. You were a star. You were brought on the team because you were the best of the best because you're working with the best. And we wanted everyone to know that they were appreciated, that they were devoting their life to this. And everything that we could do, we had a mission, critical mission. We were all joined in that mission. And that we expected a very high level of competency from our landscaping people to our janitorial staff, all the way up. Everyone was in a sense, we had evaluation forms, and you had to have, if you didn't get, all those who were in front of the athletes or those who were in front of the class teaching, we expected a 9 or a 10 out of 10 every single time. And if we didn't get it, they would probably be under some duress to raise those scores. We wanted to get the highest possible scores because we were expected to be the best, and we wanted to have a faculty that was in fact the best. So we created a culture of high performance, not just with our clients, but with the staff as well. And to me, that was our magic. That was our secret sauce.
Yeah, absolutely. When the guy which is attending you in the door to the last one 100%. Have the same philosophy is magical.
And there's no I in team, as we always say. We didn't want a bunch of superstars thinking about I. They were part of a team, and we're going to bring a world-class team to help an individual go to heights they never thought possible. And everyone deserves respect and dignity on that team, as long as they're all in and giving the very best they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's a landscaper or mows the lawn or cleans the courts, grates the clay, puts down new clay. Everyone is part of this amazing culture of high performance.
Yeah, which is very, very important because it's like you say, firstly, you have to be a high performance a person, then to achieve the result that you want. Probably it's going to take 4 or 5 more years, but you are on the journey, you are in the pathway, no?
Exactly.
Let me ask you, Jim, about how to manage pressure, because in terms of tennis, players are traveling around many weeks out of the country, different hotels, different meals, different culture, competing every week. They have to, probably most of the players, they lose more matches than the championship that they can win, because if you see one normal player who won, let's say, 10 ATP tournaments, probably he did compete in 300, which means a very small percentage. How you manage in your transformation, in your proper evolution, the pressure of to deal with the result and keep moving forward?
So, it's really important that when you decide you want to be the best, you can be and maybe the best in the world, you're inviting pressure into your life. This is a pressure cooker. I mean, you've got, as you say, travel, everyone's gunning for you, the press is after you, and you have injuries, you have a 1,000,001 problems getting from A to B, and now you're not feeling well, now you have COVID, now the tour has blocked you from playing. I mean, it goes on and on and on. If you're going to be extraordinary, you're going to have to open the door to old man stretch. You're inviting them in. That's just the way it is. And you have to thrive on it. You have to say, listen, this is part of my kind of whatever I want to do in life. This is just indispensable part of it, and I accept it. Not only do I accept it, I thrive in it. What Billie Jean King once said, pressure is a privilege. Yeah. If you want to be at the highest level, that's quite a calling. And you better open the doors and say, listen, I'm opening the doors to this. And I can't be extraordinary unless I'm willing to take extraordinary stress into my life. And I'm going to find ways to deal with it constructively. I'm not going to take it out of my teammates, on my coaches. You see coaches taking so much abuse from players, who every time they make a mistake, they look over at their box and accuse them of having done something or said something or prepared them incorrectly, or even have made the mistake themselves. Yep. But the player didn't make the mistake. It was their box that made the mistake. And, I have a lot of trouble digesting that in a positive way. But high stress is the stage of high performers. I mean, that's just, it's like, and I have to say this, it's normally not the stress that kills us. It really is. It's not the problem. The problem is the mindset you have going in, that you want to be stress-free, which is not going to take you anywhere. But the real problem is that you don't value the importance of recovery. You have insufficient recovery to balance the high stress. You need to have a life on the tour as a player. You need to have periods where you're off. You're fully on, then fully off. And you can't be on all the time, or you become, a crispy critter. You just crash and burn. And so coaches need to not just be pushers of do more, but they also need to be understanding advisors as to how to seek recovery, skillful physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual recovery to keep this train on the proverbial tracks. And we do know that if there's no stress, there's no growth. And if you want extraordinary growth, you got to have extraordinary stress. And you're always pushing the limits and checking. And, then you realize you pushed too hard. Now you're going to have to back off and heal. But you're always pushing the envelope. And your coach is trying to help you make good decisions so that you don't overtrain and that you don't undertrain. You're really finding a way to manage these amazing schedules. There's never a time off in tennis. And you've got to find ways to have time off, to do things that kind of cleanse the spirit, reset the emotional computer, and really find peace and in silence, and then back into the storm again. But this is what great coaches have to do, help players to get that. So it's again a big part of coaching that most people don't really recognize fully, but it's maybe one of the most critical aspects of being a great coach. They realize limits have to be exceeded, and they realize that limits also, that we all have limits about how much stress we can take, and we need to back off and learn how to properly recover and balance stress with recovery.
Yeah, you did speak a lot and you wrote a lot about it. It's a very important advice for coaches because you need to learn how to manage energy, We are energy.
Exactly. Exactly.
We can talk by hours with you, Jim. But let me ask you the last two questions. You are working on many different projects right now with the Youth Performance Institute, also with the app, EPIC. Can you talk a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so we learned over many years some really important lessons, a whole really science-based technology that maybe the most important application is to young people. The youth of today are struggling in a major way. The pandemic set them back at least a year or two, and the youth suicide, depression, anxiety disorders. It's almost an epidemic level. And so we put together a team that we're launching the company in October and trying to take all that we learned and apply it in an age-appropriate way for children. And joining forces with others who have also been involved in this space and trying to do things, and maybe together we can, it's a non-for-profit, there's no profit motive, no one's going to get anything out of it other than just trying to help kids to find their way and navigate through a lot of the really difficult storms. I'm not sure I would have gotten through the storms they have been facing with the crazy, social media and all of the TikTok and everything else that they're, all that's going on in their digital world, they spend so much time on screens that they lose their connection to other people. And so we're trying to create a movement really to bring better understanding and maybe more help to kids who maybe need it more now than ever because of the crazy world we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of exposure, no? A lot of,
it's a tremendous amount of angst, anxiety, depression, sadness, and they're rebelling against all this high performance stuff and have to get into top colleges and everything else. There's just a lot of confusion as to what life is all about and why should they push hard, because it doesn't look like many of them are convinced with global warming or climate change they're not going to have a life. It's all going to end. So it's a challenging time for them. Very challenging.
Yeah, and absolutely will be a great contribution, because we need it, like you say, for the situation that we have in the environment right now, but also to have a sense of purpose, how to keep growing. Let me ask you the last question, Jim. Are you enjoying your journey? You did enjoy your journey of your life?
I've had a very, very lucky and fortunate life. I've loved every bit. I've never worried about money, but I seem to have enough to get through to the next day. And, I've been working on a new book, which will be out in October. It's called Wise Decisions. And it's subtitled A Science-Based Approach to Making Better Choices in Life. And it's all the data that we collected at the Human Performance Institute, and so much of what happens to us in life is really determined by the choices we make. Even the little choices can change our destiny, can change where we end up in life. So we try to bring all the science that we could. My co-author was Dr. Sheila Olson, who has her PhD in behavioral genetics. She's a brilliant woman, and it was really great fun. It was great fun for me to do that project. And, but I've been very fortunate to kind of follow my calling. I've always kind of wanted to, this yearning to do something that might not be in keeping with the culture at the current time, might be against the winds a little bit, but that's kind of who I am. I don't look at things the way everybody else tends to look at them, but most of the things that I've pushed have turned out to be, now that's the direction it's going. So I kind of have to trust myself, but I feel very fortunate and very grateful for all the people in my life that have helped to encourage me and actually supported me and given me the opportunity to kind of chase my dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, thank you very much again to be in our episode of the Tennis Talk, Leader Voices and Coaches Voices. And thank you very much also, Jim, for all the things that you did for our sport, for many other industry or many other leaders. And more than that, for all the things that you're going to do for everyone.
Well, thank you. And I want to say thank you for all the contributions that you are making with Tennis Talk and with your efforts to bring coaches together worldwide, to bring the wisdom of your coaches, the best coaches, and to share that in a platform that is actually very accessible and I think badly needed. You're raising the standard of coaching worldwide with what you're doing. And I want to commend you and all those involved in this effort, because I think it's a game changer. You're making a real difference. And I feel honored to be part of it. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Loehr. And thank you to you. So all the people who are working with us, GPTCA, Tennis One, Segal Intitute, because we want to create awareness. We want to create more growth in our sport. Thank you to be at the Tennis Talk, Coaches Voices. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Jim Loehr.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you.
I am Alberto Castellani, President of GPTCA, Global Professional Tennis Coach Association. Learn from the best ATP coaches in the world. I hope that at the end of this course you will learn a lot of things. I hope that I will see you on the circuit with your player. This is the goal.